Good afternoon. My name is Zandra Wagner, and I serve as the University Chaplain here at Laverne. I welcome each of you to this place as a way in which we're gathering to remember, honor, and celebrate the life of Felicia Beardsley. I want to acknowledge the heavy hearts that are in this room, as well as the beauty of so many gathered here to honor her. Together in community, we are creating a sacred space large enough to hold our grief and our memories, and also large enough to offer moments of peace, of grace, and maybe even some laughter. I want to say a special thank you to Dan Kanan for offering a sage ceremony just prior to today's service for its medicine of health and clarity and peace. And a thank you to Michael Ryan. Your music welcomed us and helped us prepare our hearts for today. Thank you. Those of us here today represent a lot of different parts of Felicia's life. I want to offer a special welcome to Felicia's family who is here, her daughter Teresa, beloved by this community, Felicia's sister Donna and her husband Don, as well as Teresa's brother Eric, who is the son of Ed Beardsley, who many of us knew, Felicia's husband, and her brother's wife, Nadra. Thank you. Please feel our love and our support and care for you at this time. I also want to welcome current and former students and the many faculty and staff who are here today because we loved Felicia. We come here because we are grateful for Felicia's life and the way that she walked on this earth. We come to express grief and to affirm memories, and this is a sacred moment, and it's important that each of you are here. Will you please join me in just a moment of reflection? In this time of remembrance, may a spirit of gratitude fill this place for the ways we have been touched by Felicia's life. May a spirit of grace hold our memories. May a spirit of community be with us to comfort hearts that are heavy with sorrow. And may a spirit of love surround us and give us peace. At this time, I invite President Dr. Devorah Lieberman to share a few words on behalf of the university, and following her will be some words shared by the Dean of the College of Arts and Science, Dr. Shannon Matthews, and she will also bring words on behalf of the college.
Thank you, Zandra. I want to speak to everyone here today, but I especially want to speak to Felicia's family and her daughter, Teresa, and her future grandchild. These are moments that I want you to feel, to cherish, to remember forever, because these are the moments to listen to everyone else's stories. One of the greatest joys of our jobs at the university is to welcome aspiring, talented, kind, and committed faculty to our ranks. That's exactly what we did with Felicia Beardsley. One of the saddest parts of our jobs is to suddenly lose our aspiring, talented, and committed faculty from our ranks. That is the case with our beloved, respected, accomplished Felicia Beardsley. Everyone here today could stand up here and tell a very special, significant story about Felicia. And I bet a common denominator of all of those stories that you will hear today will be some of the following. Felicia was one of our finest and most accomplished scholars at the University of Laverne. Felicia was a beloved archaeologist in Micronesia. Felicia was an outstanding professor who always always went above and beyond to support her students and to help them fulfill their dreams. Felicia was an impactful administrator who developed the Performing Arts, the Performance Arts Scholarship Program, and helped to implement my beloved, I love it, first-year Laverne Experience program, the Flex. Felicia has left an archaeological legacy at Laverne through the Cultural and Natural History Collection. And above all, Felicia has left a hole and a space in our hearts that must be honored and remembered by every single one of us. It's our obligation to carry on her legacy. And for all of us, may her memory be a blessing. Thank you.
Good afternoon. To the family, on behalf of the College of Arts and Sciences, I express my deepest condolences. To friends and other community members, I also express my sadness for our collective loss. Felicia was among one of the first on campus to welcome me when I arrived 2 years ago. As a fellow anthropologist, we had a kindred spirit in thinking about culture, community, and our influence in the environment. We talked at length on many occasions, really, about her true heart for the students. And it is with that in mind, I say to the community, I dedicate my efforts here while at Laverne to really share the heart she had for doing absolutely what was needed to serve the students in our community. She, without question, would find a resource for a student. She would pay for a book. She would kindly do what she could without recognition. So I employ all of us in honor of her legacy to do the same. And please, to the family, do not hesitate to call on your community here to let us know how we can be of support moving forward. My deepest condolences.
Teresa shared that her mom loved poems, and especially poems about nature, and loved being in nature. And so we wanted to bring some of this aspect of her life into this space today. Now, we're not really sure which ones were her favorites or who she loved to read, but we did our best to bring this part into the ceremony. And I invite Sean Dillon, professor of theater, to share 2 poems by Mary Oliver, known for her nature poetry. They are invitations to soak in some of what Felicia loved.
Thank you. Thinking back on my encounters with Felicia when I first came to the university, and in the 15 or so years since, there was not a single encounter that wasn't marked by some aspect of her generosity. And I really appreciate that. I'm going to miss it a lot. And part of her support and welcoming and support of students, I was really, really fortunate to have a front row seat, as Teresa was one of the students in the theater department, and to watch how that caring relationship spread to everyone in the circle. I'd like to read a little about nature. Felicia's love of nature was found in her daily sunrise hikes up the mountain trails with her friend Amy and all the dogs. Every morning in sun, rain, or snow, a great way to begin the day. So, the first is Why I Wake Early by Mary Oliver. Hello, sun in my face. Hello, you who make the morning and spread it over the fields and into the faces of the tulips and the nodding morning glories, and into the windows of even the miserable and crotchety. Best preacher that ever was, dear star that just happens to be where you are in the universe, to keep us from ever darkness, to ease us with warm touching, to hold us in the great hands of light. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Watch now how I start the day in happiness, in kindness. The poem of the one world. This morning, the beautiful white heron was floating above the water. And then into the sky of this, the one world we all belong to, where everything sooner or later is a part of everything else. Which thought made me feel, for a little while, quite beautiful myself. Thank you.
At this time, I would like to invite to the stage those who will be sharing reflections about Felicia, who are close colleagues and friends. Sharon Davis, who is professor of sociology, Jonathan Reed, professor of religion, Ann Collier, former associate director of the Cultural and Natural History Collections, and also David Flotten, professor emeritus in the theater department.
Good afternoon. I stand here today as Felicia's colleague and friend, and as a representative of her department, the Department of Sociology and Anthropology, here at the University of La Verne. These are my words to contribute to her memory and to this auspicious occasion, directed at all of you, but especially her family and Teresa. Felicia Rounds Beardsley holds many titles: doctor, professor, honored gentleman, anthropologist, and state archaeologist of Yap and Coast Rye. But the two titles that I'd like to focus on today are that of colleague and friend. I first met Felicia through a friend and a former colleague when I was chair of the Sociology and Anthropology Department many years ago. Felicia was recommended as a possible adjunct professor. She might be a good fit for our students and for the university. She was working in a small museum in the Inland Empire at that time, and she was traveling regularly to the Micronesian islands of Coast Rye and Yap, making historical archaeological finds that got rapt attention of the international community at that time and continuing to this day. So I called her. She impressed me. I think we impressed her as an institution, and I hired her. She began as an adjunct professor of anthropology at the University of La Verne the very next semester. She was warm and friendly, with an intellectual curiosity that was contagious. She inspired our students, and she awed many of her colleagues, including me. A few years later, she became a full-time, tenure-track assistant professor. Thus began our nearly quarter-century association and friendship. And in fact, when I first met her, Teresa was 12. Felicia was a Renaissance woman. She fiercely loved and defended her profession, but she also loved her family, her dogs, hiking, swimming, and later in life, fencing. So I covered a number of those areas that Dr. Lieberman said you were going to hear about. Her greatest joy was her daughter, Teresa. And just recently, in fact, just a few weeks ago, Felicia and I were reminiscing and were delighting in the memories of Christmases past. When the Beardsleys had themed Christmas tree ornaments. Each year, I couldn't wait to hear the ornament theme announcement for that year's lucky tree. Felicia insisted that the themes were selected by Teresa and Ed, her husband and Teresa's amazing dad. But Felicia would describe those themes with considerable mom pride. One year it was women scientists. Another year it was famous philosophers. And yet another year, I believe it was flags of the world. Ornaments were handmade, and Felicia would share the images with us. In recent years, Felicia performed the role of senior faculty, resident sage, and valued advisor to our department. The knowledge and experience she'd gained from her years as acting College of Arts and Sciences dean influenced many of our decisions and guided us through institutional procedural quagmires. Felicia was a creative soul herself and a proponent of lifelong learning. These were reflected in the courses she created and taught over the years. Her presence was strongly felt in our first forensic investigation courses. Her archaeology courses were taught by the master archaeologist herself. And her creativity was manifested in the specialty classes she created for her students, including a course on cannibalism and a course that she was teaching this semester on pirates and lost colonies. Felicia was happy on her mountain in Wrightwood, California, in the archaeology lab at the university, and in the classroom. Her touchstones were the islands of Kosrae and Yap, and her heart belonged to Teresa and Ed. I shall miss my dear friend, Felicia Beardsley. She was a formidable intellect, fierce proponent of anthropology, protective mother, lover of nature, colleague, and friend who always challenged me to be a better version of myself, both professionally and personally. Rest in peace, dear friend, till we meet again. Thank you.
I met Felicia when she first joined the faculty at Laverne some 20 years ago, and we bonded instantly over archaeology. She worked in Micronesia, I worked in the Mediterranean. Our bond was deeper than archaeology in Laverne. Like she did with so many here today, we connected at a deep personal level. When we met, I wore Birkenstocks and she wore Crocs. I wore what she jokingly called Jesus shirts, and she wore a puka shell headband. And we were both raising daughters at the same age, so a frequent topic of conversation was the joy of parenting a middle and later high school girl. Her love for and confidence in Teresa was steadfast. When we began to work together in the dean's office, I went to a suit, tie, and dress shoes, but she kept her style, shoes and shells, thank God. In our work together, I gained a newfound respect for this scholar, teacher, mother, As an administrator, Felicia was fiercely student-focused, innovative, interdisciplinary, and above all, what I like to call a shock absorber, or drama minimizer. She was also first in and last out of the office, going on to spend late nights helping on theatrical productions with Ed and Teresa, where she mentored and mothered so many students. When I last saw Felicia in February, she was her usual self. She had a big bag full of interlibrary loan books, and she wore it like a badge of curiosity, the mark of a true scholar. She was excited about teaching her new class about shipwrecks in innovative ways. We caught up on how our family and dogs, part of our families, were doing, the state of higher education, the importance of the museum, and the imperative of student-focused education. We looked forward to meeting over coffee again soon to discuss team teaching once again in the Flex program in the fall. A week later, we were all shocked and devastated by the inexplicable news. Felicia's legacy at Laverne is her impact on so many students, the recognition of scholarship as a key to good teaching, and the Natural History Museum, which she modernized, digitized, and curated alongside Ann Collier. Her legacy beyond Laverne lies in one aspect of her scholarship that's important and she would not want forgotten. Her archaeological exploits were not just about examining ancient archaeological artifacts on tropical adventures, though they were that too, which, by the way, turned her machete-wielding skills into tournament trophies as an épée fencer. Her research was in large measure about preserving indigenous wisdom and traditional ecological knowledge, since she believed that these hold the key for her beloved island's future, their independence and sustainability, especially in the wake of climate change. Felicia advocated for the revitalization of traditional ways of fishing, sailing, gardening, medicine, energy, and education, so that these, she said in one article, to quote her, quote, could assist island economies in making that great leap forward into a fully participating, sustainable, and contributing member of the global economy in ways that foster independence, build community, and address climate change. Felicia recognized that the Pacific Islands were the canary in the coal mine. She cared deeply about the islands and their future, but also about the whole Earth, its people, its future. She knew that archaeology, anthropology, science, and education could help us better understand and revitalize traditional indigenous knowledge in innovative ways to create sustainable local communities abroad and at home. I know she did this not just for her islands, but also so that her daughter and granddaughter, so that all children and grandchildren would have a better future. For this enduring contribution, we thank you, Felicia. May your memory be blessed. May we heed your wisdom.
I'm not going to cry. Hi, I'm Ann Collier. I'm the former curator of the Cultural and Natural History collections here at the University of Laverne. As a student, I first met Felicia as Professor Beardsley. And a couple years after I graduated, Dean Felicia Beardsley called me in to take on the task of inventorying the then Yeager Museum collection. A couple of years later, Director Felicia Beardsley hired me on to act as the curator for the Cultural and Natural History collections and became my boss. And at the end of working together for 9 years, Felicia, simply by now called Felicia, became my friend. And as I look around this auditorium, this huge room that's typically reserved for big events or dignitaries like Spiro Agnew or Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and now Dr. Felicia Beardsley, I pose this question to you. If you were to die tomorrow, would you have lived a life where your family and friends would fill this room like Felicia's did? And to your professors, would your students and former students show up? And I just hope that everybody looks around now and realizes the impact of what Felicia had, that her celebration of life is in this room of all rooms. Daughter, don't cry. We speak about life in lengths, but we talk about life as how long they lived, but we never talk about that other dimension, width. And Felicia lived a life of width, full of passion in her pursuits and an expansive breadth of influence on others. So let's follow her example and branch out in our interests and expand our knowledge. Felicia doesn't want us to be upset, and Felicia doesn't want us to think back on what she did. Felicia wants us to move forward. That's how she always taught. Every day was moving forward, and we need to live like that. Let's follow her example and branch out in our interests and expand our knowledge. And like Felicia, let's listen to hear and not listen to respond. And perhaps in hearing what each other has to say, maybe we too can obtain the same amount of knowledge from each other to operate at the same level of tolerance and inclusivity that Felicia showed to others. And I have to note right here that Felicia had a high tolerance when it came to me. So trust me, that woman had a lot of tolerance. The thing is that Felicia touched all of us in one way or another, and she made an impact on our lives. And if not, we wouldn't be here today, would we? And we're celebrating her life. Let's remember that phrase. We're celebrating that she lived. And each of us were lucky to know her. So rather than stand up here and speak about what Felicia meant to the museum or to the university or to me, I instead challenge each of us to live a full life like Felicia, a life of width and not just length, a life of passion with an insatiable curiosity, a life of giving and not just taking, a life filled with more laughter than tears, a life of helping others to achieve their goals without fanfare, and a life that would fill an auditorium if it ended sooner than it should have. In other words, let's all live a remarkable life like Felicia, and let's not let her efforts be for naught. And to Teresa and Donna and Chuck and your mother Faye, to Eric, to Shadra, and to your dad Ed, but not to the dogs, thank you for sharing Felicia with us.
I have only a few minutes to share my great love, admiration, and respect for Felicia. We're here to celebrate a great woman, to honor her presence among us and cherish many memories, the pleasure of seeing her, engaging her humor and mischievous smile, all heart. I see clusters of images like a wall of moving screens, overlays, places, and thoughts. We all have many of these. Indulge your own. These are a few of mine. I saw her as professional anthropologist and expert on Micronesia, team teaching colleague of flex classes, Ed's wife and Teresa's mom, dean, leader, museum curator, and tiger assembler, active faculty reading group participant, set up by Jason Needleman and supported by Jonathan, athlete, hiking and fencing, world traveler, TV star on Ancient Aliens, and a private person. She had so many professional accomplishments, but I celebrate her as a warrior woman so full of love and curiosity, who loved teaching and engaging with the students. We taught a freshman flex class together for several years, the first semester coming in, so I got to sit in and learn from her classes. Anthropology and theater are alike in a number of ways. Both draw from many different disciplines and cultures, though unlike Felicia, I never got to teach a class in cannibalism. I'd like to share a story of a class we organized for Frosh. We gave them a deliberately ambiguous assignment to present and perform a ceremony on gratitude, especially appropriate today, I think. Individually or as a group, outside of the classroom, in nature, on the sacred Mount Baldy, to celebrate each other and experience the world as ritual, to see us leaders as people and to experience integration of heart and mind through ceremony and communion. Felicia smudged them, and I was sage while I drummed. And some amazing pieces were presented in a class that most would remember long after. Felicia was an amazing role model for students as an accomplished, powerful, and approachable teacher. Yet for all her professional and public accomplishments, Felicia had a profound private and deeply intuitive understanding of the invisible connections beyond appearances. There was a 500-year-old legend on her special island about a seminal historic event that people believed but had no idea where it had taken place or whether it was only a story. At the end of a grueling, rainy day as she was leaving a site she was working, her intuition told her, "Turn left." She listened to the inner voice and discovered this important site as a historic fact rather than myth. Finally, I must share just a couple of notes from dear friends and colleagues. From Dr. Kent Badger, who you'll hear from a little bit later, anthropologist, healthcare management professor. He had written me, "I'm just devastated by the loss of Felicia. So few people have any idea of her contribution to or continued need for her expertise and work internationally, as well as at our university. I feel terrible not to be at her memorials, but my heart is there with Teresa and all of you during this hard time of transition." And then this from Dr. Bill Cook, former academic vice president and English chair. "What a family to celebrate. I trust the Beardsley family will be recognized for all it has done for Laverne. As a colleague and constant visitor to the mountain, I feel love and warmth in her presence. I would desire to gather at least once more before I retire to my grave, but that is hefty work to walk from Iowa. Miracles happen, Bill." So many questions I still had to ask her, but let us celebrate her great generosity of spirit. What's next, she might ask. Well, sail on, great warrior queen.
Thank you. We decided to shift the song that Randy Miller is going to bring till later in the ceremony. So at this time, I'm inviting Felicia's sister, Donna Rounds, to come join us. It's really, as so many have already said, it's just so special to have family here. And along with Donna being able to share some words that will come as a blessing to our community, it's also just, we're all thinking it, right? It's also just a blessing to be able to experience sort of Felicia, because the two of you look so similar and have and have a similar voice, and that's beautiful in its own way. But we look forward to your words. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all really for coming. I don't have I don't have prepared marks. I just came to thank everybody who is here, and we've heard a lot about Felicia. She will continue to be my inspiration, and when I think about Felicia and all the conversations that we've had, I would call her when I was driving home from work across Manhattan and going home, and it would take me about an hour to go a few miles. And we had deep, long conversations, and the nature of those conversations were really about purpose and mastery and autonomy. And she wanted, we heard a lot about her love for students. It really was true. She loved students, and she loved to inspire them. She was aspirational herself. She learned like she would live forever. And so I just am so grateful to hear so much about her from everyone today, and I don't really have anything more to add. I think what I will miss the most is the small stuff, those conversations we had. I won't have any more conversations about, well, I will, but purpose and mastery and autonomy, and her authenticity and her inspiration to everybody was quite remarkable. And I know she will be deeply missed, and I'm really grateful for everyone, truly everyone who was her friend and her colleague and her mentors and her guides and for her students. So I just thank you all. Thank you. Thank you.
The slideshow that we're about to watch together was created by Anne, and I know Anne is somewhere, but Anne Collier, who we heard from earlier. The slideshow includes photos from various parts of Felicia's life, as well as from her time here at Laverne, and thank you, Anne, so much for giving us this collective gift. Badger, professor of health services management, is a close colleague and friend of the family. He wrote a poem titled "For Felicia." Although he is not able to be here today, he wrote it in South Africa for today, and it will be shared by colleague and friend Keith Lord, professor of art.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Keith Lord. I'm professor of art. I recall meeting Felicia, I think for the first time at a general ed meeting, and I wasn't chairing the committee, but she brought a proposal for some interdisciplinary class. It sounded really great, but it didn't quite meet what we were looking for, so we turned her down. And she was relentless. She came back. She met with us on the side. She was going for that class. Well, so we got it approved. And she won me over. She was just incredible. So student-centered from the start. And I think she was a brand new assistant professor. We became friends, and so then I recall working on my program review. Love those things. And so Felicia was the associate dean or associate dean with Jonathan at the time. So she would come and meet me, and we would work and would make another appointment. And it just became fun. And it was like, who is this? So we became fast friends. And I remember telling her one time, if you ever need any help with this kind of thing, just think of me. Well, then Jonathan moved to provost, and Felicia stepped up to be acting dean, and there was no one else in the office. So she's like, please come help me. So I did, and I worked with her for a couple of years in that office. And I have to say, I would just be in my office and she'd be over there, and Denise would be between us, and I would hear her laughing, and she's like, Keith, come here. So we spent so much time just laughing and sharing, just our love for students and just fun. And we would go to lunch. I remember Glenn Gamst one time seeing us. Oh, there's the dynamic duo going to lunch. Anyway, she ended up watching my dog a lot. That was before she got dogs. So I think it was because of Sammy that you guys got the dogs, right? So anyway, I miss her very much. And so when I was asked to read this for Kent, I was happy to do it. I'm honored to be here, and my condolences with the family. And I don't know, I always knew you as the Teresa. That's what she would call you. Anyway, so here, this is from Kent. For Felicia. She's returned to the earth she spaded and sifted for years, liberating treasures of the past to become messengers from those distant times to ours. And she, the invaluable connection, be it past or present, bringing her precise attention and exacting influence to enhance knowledge and enrich understanding, looking through her precise lens to inform science while enriching the lives of those woven into her own. She sat in the high council of the tribal elders of Micronesia, winning their respect as she validated sacred legends and with archaeological evidence, representing their cause to the world, enhancing their position and place internationally as she enhanced the inquiring lives of her students and colleagues, friends, and family with her loving exactitude. It was all so sudden, too sudden to seem real in any way. With everything left up and across the air, all thinking there's always tomorrow. You, Felicia, are a stark, sharp reminder there will not always be a tomorrow for us. So I must take this day, this time of reflection, and thank you for who you are, what you've done to enrich this life, this world by your presence. A solemn reminder, I and others are morally charged to do, to carry on your visionary will here in this earthly place, as you emerge anew, continuing in tune with the turn of life into tomorrow, to aid in constructing the new black holes and butterflies of the universe.
Thank you, Keith, and thank you to Kent Badger. He's here in spirit. Over the past weeks, I've had the honor of talking with many of you about Felicia. While I worked alongside Felicia in the dean's office and collaborated on a number of projects, I knew just a fraction of her significant life. I've learned so much in the last days. She is a tapestry of depth and breadth. My brief meditation today is an attempt to pull together some of the common themes, some of the threads that made up her beautiful tapestry. And I have 3 sections, and they're titled Mourning, Magnitude, and Mystery. Mourning. As we heard earlier, Felicia had a sunrise ritual, hiking through the mountains at the crack of dawn with her friend Kim. I believe, are you the friend? Oh, it's nice to have you here. Regardless of rain, of snow, of sun. And this was not the only morning ritual. She also had an early morning daily Zoom call with her mom and eventually cousins and aunts to do her mom's daily routine of physical therapy exercises, all of them together, followed by precisely 15 minutes of visiting, all before 8 a.m., all before work. Mary Oliver's poem, Why I Wake Early, read by Sean earlier, is written for those who rise with the sun and ends with these lines, Watch now how I start the day in happiness, in kindness. Felicia created a morning routine that connected her to loved ones and to the earth, and I can only imagine that she, like Mary Oliver, was starting each day in happiness and in kindness. And when I think of these morning rituals, I'm thinking of her daily round, those consistent things in Felicia's life that showed up every day like the sun. From what I can gather, each morning, she awoke a scientist, an archaeologist. This was not something she did on the side, it was part of her sunrise. And we, like the planets, got to dance around her gravitational light. Her daughter Teresa was immersed in this brilliant world, always part of Felicia's life as a scientist and archaeologist, traveling to labs in Micronesia, learning how to use a machete at such an early age, invited to do her own experiments and exploratory projects. In this daily round, Felicia had a playfulness about science, invited others in, loved working with kids, and as she did with college students. Her daily round included having fun. She was happy, a hippie, an artist, a free spirit. She loved to dress up in costumes, and she loved to dress to the beat of her own drum, never self-conscious, just being herself. Her daily round included reverence for all living creatures. Her house was something, these are not my words, but her house was something of a Ritz-Carlton for the feral cats around the house. She saved countless animals, and she was known as an animal death doula, ushering the aged and sick and wounded animals to pass from this life. Her daily round included long soulmate conversations with her sister on the phone as she drove from here to Wrightwood. Her daily round was 65 years of athleticism, committed to being strong, healthy, and doing whatever was needed to make sure her shoulder was machete ready. These were some of Felicia's perpetual mornings, her daily sunrise, and it was certainly rich in happiness and in kindness. Magnitude. We've already heard this. She was a person of great magnitude, immensity, expanse, the consummate academician. She was a giant in her field. We only need to read the articles about her life to be amazed with wonder and awe at her significance. Her life is one that some make movies about. She was driven in her field, guided by her ethics, intrepid, fearless, adventurous, always up for trying new things. She was that fine gentleman who wasn't afraid of ghosts, who also advocated for the island communities and did her part to preserve culture. She had a big life with large impacts. And as I talked with people, I heard about her magnitude in additional ways. Not only those big impacts, but also her magnanimity, her big-heartedness with her daughter, with her students, with the island community, and with her colleagues. She was passionate about supporting students, buying books and food out of her own pocket, sharing freely when the need presented itself. She wrote government officials to advocate for legislation that supported students. She loved to make up majors or invent assignments just for students so they could succeed. She was generous in her teaching because she was flexible, moving content so that the course could shift around student interests, always in the direction of excitement and learning. And then she brought that same big-heartedness, that magnanimity to her work in Micronesia. If the local indigenous understanding included dwarfs, ghosts, or spirits, then she asked permission of the tree spirits to enter the forest and asked permission of the spirits to pick up a branch. Her magnitude was steeped in cultural humility and respect. And she brought that in her life as an administrator. Al Clark's oral history videos are such a treasure, and I had the opportunity to listen to her interview. And she said something so wonderful. She said, "I wish everyone could have the opportunity to see their colleagues from the wider, larger view as an administrator. The big picture is amazing," she said. "It is a spectacular view. It is a view of so much expertise, a precious view of amazing people. From this vantage point," she said, "the whole is magnificent." And so maybe, like the Mary Oliver poem of the One World read earlier, she saw this one world that we all belong to, and also in that zoomed out view. And she saw us all as quite beautiful. Mystery. I heard a few people say that Felicia was a bit of a mystery. She didn't always share her deepest thoughts and feelings. She was that strong person, and those close to her also knew that sometimes she got hurt, that she was more sensitive than maybe people thought. Maybe keeping it close, maybe sharing it most with the animal beings that she shared her life with. We don't know all the answers to the who and the why and the person. I heard someone say she's a little bit mysterious, kind of a wild woman that preferred a weathered look rather than combing her hair, and she was wonderfully quirky and not always knowable. And so maybe she's left us with beautiful questions, and I think she would be delighted to know that her life left us in a state of curiosity. And this has already been mentioned by some of you. For a number of years, Felicia, and sometimes I was also on this panel with her, a faculty panel for new student orientation. And it was a meeting with the parents. And here in a room full of parents, some anxious that their student might learn things that don't align with their own family's values, that was the moment that Felicia got into high gear, because this was her opportunity to give a pitch for intellectual curiosity. Felicia loved inviting people into their own curiosity and tried her best to convince parents that being open and curious and full of questions was a benefit like none other. I think a couple days ago I asked if I could see this syllabus from this beautiful shipwrecks class that she was teaching. And of course, in that syllabus, there was woven these invitations. She invited students to tap into their curiosities and to harness their inventiveness and creativity. And her syllabus itself, week to week, is full of questions for students to explore and wander about in. She loved the questions. She was less, maybe, about the answers, although she spent much of her life seeking out answers to great mysteries. We might hear Felicia's words in these last few lines of another Mary Oliver poem on mystery. She says, "Let me keep distance always from those who think they have the answers, but let me keep company always with those who say, 'Look,' and laugh in astonishment and bow their heads." Exactly. No need to solve the mystery too quickly. Look, get curious, ask questions, laugh heartily in astonishment, and can you just hear her laugh? And then bow your head in reverence to this earth, in reverence to the tree spirits, in reverence to the great mysteries waiting to be solved, and in reverence to the one world and the amazing beauty of the people in it. Amen. I invite Randy Miller to join us here on stage. Randy is another dear friend, close colleague, and so grateful that you're here to bring the gift of your music.
Shadows are falling and I'm running out of breath. Keep me in your heart for a while. If I leave you, it doesn't mean I love you any less. Keep me in your heart for a while. When you wake up in the morning and you see that crazy sun, heart for a while. It's a train leaving nightly, called when all is said and done. Keep me in your heart for a while. Sha-la-la-la-la-la-la. Keep me in your heart. Sha-la-la-la-la-la. Heart for a while. Sometimes when you're doing simple things around the house, maybe you'll think of me and smile. You know I'm tied to you like the buttons on your blouse. Keep me in your heart for a while. Hold me in your thoughts, take me to your dreams. Touch me when I fall into view. When the winter comes, keep the fires lit, and I will be right next to you. Engine drivers headed north to Pleasant Street. Keep me in your heart for a while. These wheels keep turning, but they're running out of steam. Keep me in your heart for a while. Hold me in your thoughts, take me to your dreams, touch me when I fall into view. When the winter comes, keep the fires lit, I will be right next to you. Shadows are falling and I'm running out of breath. Keep me in your heart for a while. If I leave you, it doesn't mean I love you any less. Keep me in your heart for a while. Keep me in your heart for a while.
Thank you. After the final blessing, directly after the service, you are invited to light a candle for Felicia. The candle, as well as a reception, will be in the University Quad, just out here. Sacred Sage will also be sharing its gift of medicine, of health, help, good journeys, and peace with all of you who are interested. So please join us if you can for the reception. It's an opportunity to greet the family, visit with one another, and honor Felicia by lighting a candle in her memory. And so as we go from this place with Felicia in our heart, please hear these words of blessing. Let your heart and mind and spirit be filled with gratitude for Felicia's life and love, her curiosity, her gifts to archaeology, her teaching, her commitment to bettering this earthly existence, and her passion. May each of us walk gently with loss and find grace and healing with memories. May love surround you and give you peace. Amen.